Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm EpicSnuggleBunny, and in this video we're going to take a look at a knife called the Perpetua. So this is an interesting project between three different, groups we can call it. The first of which is Massdrop, which is a kind of a group buy platform for enthusiasts of various fields of interest. You have the designer TJ Schwarz, and then you have the production company who's producing these, and that is Millet Knives. So essentially what happened here is Massdrop, this enthusiast platform, decided that they wanted to come in and build a completely USA-made knife for their users of their platform that is, one, affordable, two, useful, and three, has a large degree of longevity as far as a pocket knife goes. And so they turned to Millet Knives, which is a US manufacturer based out of Idaho. And the designer who's closely correlated with Millet Knives is TJ Schwarz. TJ's done a few projects, in fact, with other companies such as CRKT, Millet themselves. He's got a few other projects in the pipeline. But if you look down here in the corner here, see my logo, TJ actually designed that one too. And the knife that the little bunny rabbit is holding is one of his designs called the Arius that he did in conjunction with Koenig Knives. So anyways, that's the team that came together. The knife gets its name from the Idaho State model, which is Esto Perpetua, or Let It Be Forever, and hence, a long-term longevity design, aptly named the Perpetua. So we're going to take a look at the specs, overall impressions, and details, just as we do in all of my videos here. So this knife has a blade length, and I'm going to pull out a few size comparisons here, of 3.25 inches. Here we are next to the Massdrop Perpetua, a very common knife in the knife world. Up above it we have a Chris Reeve large Sabenza, and then another very common knife, the Kershaw Dividend, down here at the bottom. So let's put these two together, in fact, since they're a little bit closer in size. Actually a bit closer in size. So blade length of 3.25 inches, handle length of about 4.5, giving us an overall length of 7.65 inches. The weight comes in at 4.3 ounces, which is pretty reasonable for this size of knife. Blade steel is quite interesting, uses a steel called Nitro V. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then the handle thickness, or the width here, is 0.5 inches, half an inch, which is a fairly common dimension for pocket knives. So it does use a lock that many of you are familiar with. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But phosphor bronze washers with this locking system, gray G10 handles over stainless steel liners. I believe this is a titanium pocket clip, and then you do have TJ's logo. Now, one other consideration, this is a prototype, so there are going to be some changes that will differ from the model you see before you. And again, we'll get into that a little bit later. So, with the concept of the project of building kind of a knife for the masses that appeals to both enthusiast and casual buyers, that's essentially what their goal was. And, I feel like they did a pretty good job here. This is a knife that anyone could pick up and use. It has some fantastic features like being fully ambidextrous. It's a very easy to use locking system. It's very easy to deploy. Pocket clip goes left and right hand for a tip-up carry, which means it carries with the blade tip pointing up. And, it's, again, I think it works for just about everyone. So that was their goal, a knife for the masses. I think they did a pretty good job. Love that it's made in the USA. Has some very well thought out details as far as the design goes, and then the price point, that's all another consideration. Now, as of kind of the pre-drop here, or the drop of this knife, which we are in February of 2018, the price is $110. If you're looking at this video in the future, I can't guarantee the price. You'd have to go check Massdrop for up-to-date pricing info. But 110 bucks, completely USA made and designed, with a pretty good platform like Massdrop behind it. I think there's a lot of value there for you. If you're looking at this knife and you like the design, I honestly think you'd be pretty happy with it. There are a lot of great knives in this price point that serve as an excellent knife to put in your pocket every single day, and this is another one of them. So that's kind of my overall impressions. I'd give you the thumbs up if you're looking to pick one up, to be honest. So let's go into a little bit more detail And let's start out with the blade. So as I mentioned, the steel is a steel called Nitro V, a nitrogen-rich steel, very corrosion resistant, which is important if you live in an area that is humid, or if it's in a pocket and your pocket gets sweaty. This steel is going to hold up to be rust resistant fairly well. It'll do a better job than quite a few other steels while still maintaining an edge for a pretty good amount of time, fairly easy to sharpen. So I think the steel choice is one of the most interesting aspects of this knife. You just don't see Nitro V on, well, really any production knives that I can think of. So that is certainly a cool feature for this knife. Now it does have a drop point style blade, as you can see here, and it has a hollow grind, which is, you know, a really good choice for an everyday carry knife. You know, whether it's hollow grind or a flat grind, if you know what those are, both are good choices. Hollow grind having the advantage of, you know, essentially maintaining the thickness behind the edge as you continue to sharpen up and up the blade after years of use. So again, one consideration with the blade. They also put a lot of thought into this completely radiused edge here. They wanted to make this knife as easy as possible to sharpen on fixed angle systems, hence just the sweeping, you know, curve of the blade. Obviously lots of good belly for cutting, you know, whatever it is you're trying to cut with the knife. So blade is well thought out. 3.25 inches is full size for me without getting too small, so blade size is good. And it does have, you know, thumb studs for deployment, which I think just about everyone can agree is a fairly useful opening method. So that's the blade steel, blade profile. They do have some jimping on top. Again, the shape of the jimping might change on the full production run, but it gives your thumb a good spot to index and kind of lock it in if you need a lot of control on the knife. So that's what the jimping looks like right there. Okay, so now we come to the handle. And if you've seen this locking system before, it's because it has been used for the last 20 years by one specific company, and that company is Benchmade. So, you know, here's one of their newer models, the Benchmade Mini Crooked River. It has the, you know, the telltale axis lock. Now in 2018, the patent on the axis lock expired, and so now other companies can use the axis lock, you know, without any concern, as is the way it goes with patents. Now the term axis lock is actually trademarked, so even though this has an axis lock, they can't call it an axis lock because the term is trademarked, but obviously it's the same locking mechanism. It was designed by McHenry and Williams, you know, more than 20 years ago. It's been a very iconic locking system for Benchmade. It's probably one of the best known, and again, it's one of the best ambidextrous options in all of the locking mechanisms in, you know, the knife world. So anyways, you can find tons of info about the axis lock out there. It's the exact same thing. Handles are G10, nice grippy, you know, material that will hold up to years and years of use. They went with the gray because they wanted to keep it fairly monochromatic, so that, you know, again, knife for the masses, fairly straightforward, nothing overly flashy, overly colorful. Down the line, if they do future runs, I wouldn't be surprised if they incorporated, you know, blues or greens or other, you know, colors essentially. But first one, again, the least objectionable color is probably the way that they started. There are standoffs here at the back, which obviously separate the handles, give it a flow through construction, which keeps the weight down, makes it easier to clean or blow out with an air gun if you need to. Now, some of the differences on this prototype versus the actual production run is that this blade is actually undersized a little bit, and, you know, I didn't really get into the specifics of why it was undersized for the prototype, but with the full-size blade, there's actually a little bit more length on the tip, and so it gets a little bit closer to the edge to maximize what's called the blade to handle ratio. Because the blade is a little bit bigger, the thumb stud actually sits a little bit further from the handle as well, which was kind of one of my points of feedback. You know, let's make sure we have proper spacing there for the thumb stud. And blade to handle was kind of my other critique. They essentially, Jonas over at Massdrop sent me this one, didn't tell me what the changes were on the full production. He wanted to get my feedback first. And honestly, they addressed all the points that I brought out, which is one, let's make sure the spacing is adequate there. Let's maximize blade to handle ratio. And then another change that's coming up is this lock bar right here. As you can see, kind of the grip areas or the thumb studs of the lock bar sit out fairly proud or fairly far from the handle. On the full production one, it's actually shaved down a little bit, and then they tumble it with stones to make sure it's not too sharp as well. So that was another change from this prototype here to the full production run. So those are really my only areas of concern or feedback on this one, but again, they've addressed them all. Here's the pocket clip. You know, pretty simple, straightforward. It works really well. You know, really no pros or cons to it. It's unobjectionable. In the hand, ergonomics are actually pretty good on this knife. I wear an extra large glove and it's very comfortable in my hand. I can't feel the pocket clip in my palm at all. It's just non-existent in my hand size. So, and then again, you can switch it here. You just take out the 2 screws, which are torque screws. You flip it over, you screw it in here, and then left-handed users, you guys are good to go. Lanyard hole at the back. If you do want to tie a lanyard on it, you have that option. And then, you know, again, here is the designer's logo, TJ Schwarz. And then on the full production run, it'll say Massdrop, and it'll be serialized. And I don't know if there are going to be any other markings on the blade, but essentially that's what it'll look like. As if I need to mention, the blade is, you know, stone washed, given kind of that dark pre-beat up color. And so that way, as you use the blade, you're not going to see any scratches or use. It's, you know, kind of like buying pre-worn jeans. You'll never really know if they're new or used. So with knives, obviously that's something that a lot of people prefer. But anyways, I think that's pretty much it. So again, pretty well done. You guys would be surprised at the amount of thought that has to go into a knife that works for everyone. I've sat in on a few design meetings before, not with this knife, but other knives, and just the amount of details that they labor over is quite mind-boggling. But again, good knife, good size, good materials. You know, an excellent U.S. manufacturer, excellent designer, excellent platform backing it for warranty support. And then again, you know, there'll be future runs at some point. It looks like about 1,600 people have already expressed interest in the design and kind of pre-signed up, I guess, for it. So if it sells really well, there'll be more versions, there'll be different colors, there may be different blade shapes. I mean, Massdrop is a user-driven community, so whatever the enthusiasts vote on is probably what'll come down the line. But anyways, that is the Perpetua from Massdrop, TJ Schwarz, and Millet Knives, made in the USA. And yeah, if you guys want more info, go check out the link down below. They have a really well done video that they made for the knife where they interviewed Millet and the designer. There's a number of details on the description page as well as the discussion page, so you can really delve into the nitty-gritty before you commit to you know, to the pre-order, the purchase of this knife. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. You can always follow me on Instagram, also EpicSnuggleBunny, for more daily content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.